Hello guys, welcome to Biology Made Easy. My name is Miss Natasha and I'm going to take you through today's topic. So today we are going to look at plant nutrition. So basically we are going to look at photosynthesis and the factors that affect the rate of photosynthesis. So without wasting any time, let's jump right into it. All organisms need nutrients, and these nutrients are needed for growth, reproduction, repairing worn out tissues, energy production, and a whole lot of other processes. Animals cannot make their own food, but green plants can make their own food. They use inorganic substances such as carbon dioxide, water, and minerals to make organic substances such as carbohydrates, proteins, lipids, and the vitamins they need. So they obtain these inorganic substances such as carbon dioxide, water, and mineral salts from the air and soil. The process by which plants make their own food is known as photosynthesis. Photo means light and synthesis means to manufacture. So photosynthesis is the process by which green plants manufacture carbohydrates from carbon dioxide and water using energy from sunlight. So green plants have a pigment that is called chlorophyll, and this pigment that is called chlorophyll makes them look green. So chlorophyll is kept inside chloroplasts, which are small organelles that are found inside plant cells. So chlorophyll traps and absorbs energy from sunlight, and this energy is used during the process of photosynthesis. So when light falls on a chlorophyll molecule, some of the energy from the light is absorbed, and this energy is used to combine carbon dioxide and water with the help of enzymes inside the chloroplast. So after carbon dioxide and water have been combined, glucose, which is a carbohydrate, is produced, and also oxygen is produced as the byproduct. So when chlorophyll molecules absorb energy from sunlight, the energy is used to combine carbon dioxide and water with the help of enzymes inside the chloroplast. Combining carbon dioxide and water produces glucose, which is a carbohydrate, and oxygen is also produced as a byproduct. So during the process of photosynthesis, light energy is converted to chemical energy in the chloroplasts. On this slide, we can see the word equation and the chemical equation for photosynthesis. So the word equation basically tells us the reactants for photosynthesis, the conditions necessary for photosynthesis, and the products of photosynthesis. So the reactants are carbon dioxide and water, and the conditions necessary for photosynthesis to occur are sunlight and chlorophyll, and the products of photosynthesis are glucose and oxygen. So basically, during photosynthesis, carbon dioxide and water are combined in the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll to produce glucose and oxygen. So this is the chemical equation for photosynthesis. As I have mentioned in the previous slide, carbon dioxide, water, chlorophyll, and light energy are needed for photosynthesis to occur. So carbon dioxide diffuses through the stomata into the leaves. So stomata are small holes that are found on leaf surfaces, and carbon dioxide diffuses through these holes into the leaves, and sunlight is absorbed by chlorophyll, and water is absorbed from the soil through the root tips. So basically these are the conditions that are necessary for photosynthesis to occur. After photosynthesis has occurred, glucose and oxygen are produced. So glucose and oxygen are the products of photosynthesis. So oxygen diffuses out of the leaves into the air, and glucose is broken down during respiration to release energy. We all know that plants are living organisms, and living organisms respire. And during respiration, glucose is broken down to release energy. So glucose is broken down to release energy. Glucose can also be converted to starch for storage in the leaves. So starch is less reactive and it is more stable than glucose. So some of the glucose can be converted to starch for storage in the leaves. Glucose can also be used to make proteins and other organic substances. So some of the glucose is used to make proteins and other organic substances that are needed by the plant. Some of the glucose can also be converted to sucrose to be transported to the other parts of the plant. So sucrose is less reactive than glucose, but it is also soluble. So it is perfect for transportation. That is why some of the glucose is converted to sucrose for transportation. So sucrose is transported in vessels that are known as phloem vessels. So after the sucrose has been transported to the other parts of the plant, the sucrose can be turned back into glucose to be broken down in order to release energy, or it can be turned into starch for storage. So starch is not soluble and it is less reactive, so it is a perfect form for storage. So some of the sucrose can also be used to make other substances that are needed for growth. This diagram illustrates what I was trying to explain. Some of the glucose that is produced during photosynthesis is converted to starch for storage. This is because starch is insoluble and it is more stable than glucose. And some of the glucose is converted to sucrose in order to be transported to the rest of the plant. This is because sucrose is more stable than glucose and it is also soluble. So after sucrose has been transported to the rest of the plant, some of it is used for shoot growth. And in this diagram, we can see that some of the sucrose is used for fruit growth and some of it is stored in fruits. Some of the sucrose that is transported in phloem tubes goes to the roots, and the sucrose is used for root growth, and some of it is stored in the roots as starch. So basically this is what happens to glucose after photosynthesis. The chloroplasts are found in the leaves. So photosynthesis occurs in the leaves. This means that the leaves are specially adapted to allow photosynthesis to take place efficiently. So in this diagram, we can see the structure of a leaf. It has a midrib with veins branching from the midrib, and this is the leaf margin. So basically this is the transverse section of a leaf. So this diagram shows us a transverse section through a small part of a leaf. So this is the upper epidermis of the leaf, and this is the mesophyll layer of the leaf, which consists of the palisade mesophyll layer and the spongy mesophyll layer. So the spongy mesophyll layer has got some air spaces, and this is the lower epidermis of the leaf, and it has got a lot of stomata. A single one is called a stoma, and some guard cells. So this is a vein, a leaf vein, and a leaf vein consists of a xylem vessel and a phloem vessel. So the palisade mesophyll layer contains a lot of palisade mesophyll cells that are tightly pegged, and these cells are closer to the upper surface of the leaf They are found just below the upper epidermis of the leaf, and they contain numerous chloroplasts and large vacuoles. All this makes photosynthesis efficient. The sponge mesophyll layer contains a lot of air spaces, and these air spaces allow carbon dioxide to reach the palisade mesophyll cells and all the photosynthesizing cells, and they also allow oxygen to diffuse out of the cells into the air. So the lower epidermis contains the stoma. So a lot of them are called stomata, and a single one is called the stoma. So the stoma allows carbon dioxide to diffuse into the leaf. Then the vein contains the xylem vessels and the phloem vessels. So the xylem vessels bring water, which is essential for photosynthesis, to the leaves, and the phloem vessels carry the products of photosynthesis away from the leaves to the other parts of the plant. So the leaves are supported by the stem and a petiole to expose as much of the leaf as possible to the sunlight and air. They also have a large surface area to expose as large an area as possible to the sunlight and air. They are also thin to allow sunlight to penetrate all the cells, to allow carbon dioxide to diffuse in and oxygen to diffuse out as quickly as possible. There are a lot of stomata in the lower epidermis to allow carbon dioxide to diffuse in and oxygen to diffuse out. There are also a lot of air spaces in the spongy mesophyll layer of the leaf to allow carbon dioxide and oxygen to diffuse to and from all the cells. There are no chloroplasts in epidermal cells to allow sunlight to penetrate to the mesophyll layer. There are also a lot of chloroplasts containing chlorophyll present in the mesophyll layer to absorb energy from sunlight so that carbon dioxide will combine with water. The palisade mesophyll cells are often arranged end-on to keep as few cell walls as possible between the sunlight and the chloroplast. The chloroplast inside palisade mesophyll cells are often arranged broadside on to expose as much chlorophyll as possible to the sunlight. The chlorophyll cells are also arranged on flat membranes inside the chloroplast to expose as much chlorophyll as possible to the sunlight. And the xylem vessels are within short distances of every mesophyll cell in order to supply water to the cells in the leaf, some of which will be used in photosynthesis. The phloem tubes are also within a short distance of every mesophyll cell to take away sucrose and other organic products of photosynthesis. So these are the leaf adaptations for photosynthesis. There are a number of factors that affect the rate of photosynthesis. These are also known as the rate limiting factors of photosynthesis. So they are light intensity, carbon dioxide concentration, temperature, and stomata. The first one we are going to look at is light intensity. So in the dark, a plant cannot photosynthesize. And as light intensity increases, the rate of photosynthesis also increases, or it becomes faster. So it increases until a plant can no longer photosynthesize any faster. And at this point, light intensity will no longer be the rate limiting factor. So this diagram illustrates what I was trying to explain. So between points A and B, the rate of photosynthesis increases as we increase the light intensity. So the limiting factor between point A and point B is light intensity. But as we increase the light intensity, the rate of photosynthesis gets to a point where it remains the same. This is between point B and point C. So between point B and point C, no matter how we increase the light intensity, the rate of photosynthesis remains the same. This is because at this point, light intensity will no longer be the rate limiting factor. So at this point, other factors like carbon dioxide concentration will be the limiting factors. So at point A and point B, light intensity is the limiting factor, because as we increase the light intensity, the rate of photosynthesis increases. And at point B to C, light intensity is not the rate limiting factor, because no matter how much we increase the light intensity, the rate of photosynthesis remains the same. The more carbon dioxide a plant is given, the faster the rate of photosynthesis. So we are supplying the reactant. The more carbon dioxide there is, the faster the rate of photosynthesis. So the rate of photosynthesis increases until the plant can no longer photosynthesize any faster. At this point, the concentration of carbon dioxide will no longer be the rate limiting factor. So increasing the carbon dioxide concentration increases the rate of photosynthesis up to a point when the concentration of carbon dioxide will no longer be the rate limiting factor. So this diagram illustrates what I was trying to explain. So at this point, as we increase the concentration of carbon dioxide, the rate of photosynthesis increases. And at this point, no matter how much we increase the carbon dioxide concentration, the rate of photosynthesis stays the same. So increasing the carbon dioxide concentration increases the rate of photosynthesis up to a point when increasing carbon dioxide concentration will not affect the rate of photosynthesis. So at this point, carbon dioxide will no longer be the rate limiting factor. So other factors such as light intensity will be affecting the rate of photosynthesis. So increasing the carbon dioxide concentration increases the rate of photosynthesis up to a point when carbon dioxide concentration will no longer be the rate limiting factor of photosynthesis. So now let's see how temperature affects the rate of photosynthesis. So photosynthesis takes place faster on a warm day than on a cold day. This means that an increase in temperature increases the rate of photosynthesis, but when it becomes too hot, photosynthesis slows down. So an increase in temperature increases the rate of photosynthesis. Carbon dioxide, which is used for photosynthesis, diffuses from the air into the leaf through the stomata. So if the stomata are closed, it means that photosynthesis cannot take place. And stomata often close when the weather becomes too hot. So they close in order to prevent excessive water loss. So by preventing excessive water loss and closing, photosynthesis stops. So this means that when it is too hot, photosynthesis slows down. So the opening or the closure of stomata affect the rate of photosynthesis. So now let's see how photosynthesis is important to the ecosystem, to the environment, and to other animals. So photosynthesis brings energy from the sun into the ecosystem. It produces oxygen, which is needed for survival by animals. So without oxygen, a lot of animals cannot survive. Photosynthesis is also needed in order to maintain a constant level of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, and this prevents global warming. Photosynthesis also produces food for animals, since some of the animals cannot produce food on their own. So besides the fact that plants make their own food, they also need other minerals. So these minerals are absorbed from the soil. So plants need nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. So they need nitrogen for protein synthesis and chlorophyll formation. And if a plant lacks nitrogen, it presents with chlorosis or yellowing of leaves and stunted growth. Plants also need phosphorus for ATP synthesis or energy production and nucleic acid synthesis. And if a plant lacks phosphorus, it presents with a purplish leaf coloring and stunted growth. Potassium is needed for ion and osmotic balance. And if a plant lacks potassium, it presents with yellow and brown leaf margins, poor flower and fruit formation, and premature death. So these minerals are very important for the growth and maintenance of the plant. So we have come to the end of our session. So thank you guys for watching until the end.